You think you know Portland. The bridges, the weird bumper stickers, the guy on the unicycle playing bagpipes in a kilt. Maybe you have visited. Maybe you have seen the memes, but here's what most people never stop to realize. Sitting behind all of that quirk and all of that rain-soaked Pacific Northwest charm, Portland has quietly fed the entire country. Not just through its restaurants or its legendary food cart scene. Literally fed it. The food sitting in your pantry right now, the snacks your kids beg for at the grocery store, the drinks you grab without thinking, the meatless burger in your freezer, the bottle of chai on your counter. There is a better than even chance that some version of it was born in Portland or in the state of Oregon, invented by someone who was either brilliantly creative, stubbornly persistent, or just running out of food and refusing to waste what they had left. This city has a long, strange, and genuinely remarkable history of sending things out into the world that the world cannot live without anymore. Not just food trends, not just restaurants that got written up in the right magazine. Actual inventions. Foods that required someone to look at a pile of potato scraps, or a cart full of hot dogs with ruined buns, or a heap of leftover rice pilaf and say, well, something has to be done with this, and then do it. Today, we are counting down 10 foods that were invented in Portland, or are so deeply rooted in the city and this state that they might as well have been. From the humble and the accidental to the spectacular and the strange. By the end of this, you will never look at your grocery cart the same way again. Number 10. The Pronto Pup. The corn dog that Portland sent out to the world. The corn dog, in its truest original form, was born from desperation on the Oregon coast and then launched to national fame from a storefront window right here in Portland. The year was 1939. George and Versa Boyington were running a simple hot dog stand in Rockaway Beach, a small town on the Oregon coast west of Portland. Business was decent in summer when the tourists came, but Oregon weather does not cooperate with outdoor vendors. On Labor Day weekend, a storm rolled in hard off the Pacific and drenched everything, including their entire supply of hot dog buns. The buns were destroyed. The hot dogs were still perfectly good. And they were sitting there watching customers walk away because they had nothing to put the dogs in. George was a man who could not let a problem sit unsolved. He mixed up a cornmeal-based coating that could be prepared on the spot, dipped the hot dogs in it, dropped them in a fryer, and handed them out on sticks. He called the creation a Pronto Pup, named for how fast the batter could be whipped up. Rain ruined buns, and a man who refused to send customers away hungry. The Pronto Pup made its commercial debut through a shop window in Portland. 15,000 Pronto Pups were sold at the Pacific International Livestock Exposition that same year. By 1942, they had filed for a trademark. By the late 1940s, they were selling franchises coast to coast. George worked with Centennial Mills in Portland to develop the proprietary batter mix, a combination of cornmeal, wheat flour, and rice flour that every franchisee had to purchase exclusively. Every Pronto Pup in America was running on a Portland-made mix. You can still visit the original Pronto Pup location in Rockaway Beach today, and whether you call it a corn dog or a Pronto Pup, or just a fried hot dog on a stick, you are eating something that a creative Oregon man invented on a rainy weekend, because he was not willing to go home and call it a loss. Portland took that rain-soaked idea and turned it into a national institution. Number 9. The Tater Tot. The greatest accident in frozen food history. If the Pronto Pup was born from rain, the Tater Tot was born from waste. The family behind it did not set out to invent a national obsession. They were just trying not to throw anything away. In the early 1950s, brothers Francis Nephi Grigg and Golden Grigg were running a frozen food operation in Ontario, Oregon, right on the Idaho border. The company was called Or-Ida, a mashup of Oregon and Idaho, and its purpose was to process and freeze potatoes and corn. The French fry machine they used left behind enormous quantities of potato scraps, tiny slivers, irregular fragments, broken bits that could not be packaged as fries. Mountains of perfectly good potato going nowhere. The brothers refused to write it off. They mashed the scraps together with flour and seasoning, shaped the mixture into small cylindrical logs, and fried them up. What happened was the tater tot. Small, golden, crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. They put the product in the freezer aisle in 1953 and gave it that unforgettable name. By 1964, Ora-Ida was worth over $200 million in today's money and controlled 25% of the entire frozen potato market in the United States. The tater tot had gone from farm scrap to freezer staple in a decade. Today, the country consumes billions of tater tots every year. National Tater Tot Day falls on February 2nd. The town of Ontario, Oregon still holds a tater tot festival to celebrate the humble golden miracle that Oregon sent to the world. Portland gets its own piece of tater tot history too. A bar owner in the city is widely credited with inventing tachos, the combination of tater tots with nacho toppings that became a fixture at gastropubs across the country. Portland could not let a beloved food just be a side dish. It had to turn it into something louder. Number 8. The Garden Burger. The veggie patty that started a revolution. Before Beyond Meat. Before Impossible Burger. Before plant-based eating touched every restaurant menu in America, there was a restaurant owner in the Portland area named Paul Wenner, who was staring at a tray of leftover food and trying to figure out what to do with it. It was the early 1980s. Wenner owned a vegetarian restaurant called the Garden House in Gresham, Oregon, just outside Portland. After service one day, he found himself looking at leftover vegetables and a tray of rice pilaf that had not been touched. Rather than throw it out, he smashed the mixture together, formed it into a loaf, seasoned it, and served it the next day as the garden loaf sandwich. His customers loved it immediately. Within a short time, the garden loaf sandwich accounted for half of everything the restaurant sold. Wenner realized he had something bigger on his hands. He refined the recipe, adding oats, mushrooms, and cheese to create a texture that could hold its own as a patty. He founded a company called Wholesome and Hearty Foods with a partner in 1984, and the Garden Burger was born. The climb from small Oregon health food item to national sensation took years of persistence. But by 1997, when the company rebranded as Garden Burger Inc., annual sales were topping $100 million, and the Garden Burger held 55% of the entire veggie patty market in the United States. 1 out of every 2 veggie burgers sold in America was a Garden Burger. All of that from leftover rice pilaf and a man who refused to waste food. The Oregonian once called Paul Wenner the futurist of food. Looking at the plant-based food landscape today, it is hard to argue with that title. He saw the future of eating from a kitchen in Gresham before anyone else knew there was a future to see. Every veggie burger on every menu in America owes something to what Paul Wenner made with his leftovers one afternoon. Number 7. Voodoo Donut. The donut shop that changed what a donut could be. There are donuts, and then there is Voodoo Donut. The difference is enormous, and it starts in Portland's Old Town neighborhood in 2003. Voodoo Donut was the brainchild of Kenneth Pogson, known as Cat Daddy, and Trez Shannon. Neither came from a baking background. What they brought was a commitment to hospitality, a love of the absurd, and a do-it-yourself philosophy that had more in common with the Portland punk scene than with any professional kitchen. The idea was to make donuts nobody had ever made before. Not just new flavors, but donuts that were spectacles. The voodoo doll became their signature, a donut shaped like a human figure filled with raspberry jelly. coated in chocolate frosting and stabbed through with a pretzel stick. The bacon maple bar combined sweet maple frosting with a strip of actual crispy bacon laid across the top. The old dirty bastard was buried under Oreo crumbles and chocolate frosting. The shop opened at 10 in the morning and stayed open until 2 in the morning. The line outside on weekend nights became its own Portland landmark. The iconic pink box became a trophy that people carried through airports to show people back home. Voodoo Donut turned an ordinary piece of breakfast food into a cultural monument that drew visitors from around the country just to stand in that line. Today, Voodoo has locations across the United States, but the original shop in Old Town is still there, still making the same outrageous creations, still running the line out the door and down the sidewalk. It did not just invent new donuts, it reinvented what a donut shop could mean for a city. Number 6. Salt and straw ice cream. The scoop that proved Portland could out-weird everyone. In 2011, cousins Kim and Tyler Malik launched Salt and Straw from a food cart in Portland with $16 invested in 4 used hand crank ice cream makers and absolutely no professional ice cream making experience between them. What they had was curiosity, a willingness to fail in a city that was willing to wait in a long line for something it had never tasted before. They spent months doing things trained ice cream professionals would have told them not to do. They talked to chefs, chocolatiers, and brewers. They tasted everything. And then they started making flavors that had never appeared in a scoop shop before. Honey lavender, strawberry cilantro lime cheesecake, pear and blue cheese, Marionberry coconut, sweet corn and blackberry, sea salt with caramel ribbons. These were not gimmick flavors. They were carefully crafted combinations that rewarded adventurous eaters with genuine flavor payoffs. Salt and Straw worked directly with Oregon farms and rotated the menu with the seasons. The lines grew. The cart became a brick and mortar shop. The shop became a cultural destination. Then came Los Angeles, San Diego, and cities across the country. What Salt and Straw invented was a new standard for what artisan ice cream could mean in America. A genuine farm-to-scoop philosophy and a flavor imagination that has influenced ice cream makers nationwide. All of it from $16 in a food cart on a Portland street corner. Number 5. Oregon Chai. The drink that turned an Indian beverage into an American obsession. Before chai lattes were on every coffee shop menu in the country, a Portland woman named Heather Howitt was in India discovering a drink that would change her life, and eventually change what Americans put in their cups every morning. Howitt was trekking through the Himalayas when she encountered proper Indian chai, the rich, spiced, milky tea that has been central to Indian culture for centuries. She came home to Portland and could not stop thinking about it. She started experimenting with different combinations of spices, vanilla, and honey, trying to recreate what she had tasted and then to make it her own. What she landed on was something a bit sweeter and more accessible to Western palates, but rooted in the same warmth that had captivated her halfway around the world. She founded Oregon Chai in Portland in 1994. In the beginning, it was a mother and daughter operation, with Howitt and her mother producing the concentrate in the basement of a church in Portland. Revenue in the first year was around $20,000. By the year 2000, just 6 years later, the company was generating $15 million annually, and Oregon Chai was on shelves across the country. Oregon Chai introduced the chai latte to the American mainstream. Before Oregon Chai, most Americans had never tasted chai in any form. After Oregon Chai, the drink became a permanent fixture of every coffee shop menu in the country. That conversation started in a church basement in Portland. made by a woman who could not stop thinking about a drink she tasted in the mountains of India. Number 4. Stumptown Coffee and the Direct Trade Revolution. The Portland company that rewrote how America thinks about coffee. When Dwayne Sorensen opened the first Stumptown Coffee Roasters on Southeast Division Street in 1999, he did not just open a coffee shop. He helped launch a new era in American coffee culture. Sorensen was obsessive about sourcing. He traveled to coffee farms in person, built direct relationships with growers, and paid extraordinary prices for quality, sometimes 3 or 4 times the fair trade rate, because he believed that paying farmers what their work was worth was the only honest way to do business. At a time when most Americans were buying canned commodity coffee or getting over-roasted shots at the major chains, Stumptown was pulling single-origin espresso and asking people to taste what coffee actually tasted like when you treated it like the agricultural product it was. The Hairbender Espresso Blend became a Portland legend. The original shop on Division Street became a model for what a coffee shop could be. Stumptown grew to multiple Portland locations, then expanded to Seattle, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and New Orleans. Sorensen once held the record for the highest price ever paid for a batch of coffee beans. More importantly, the direct trade model Stumptown championed became an industry standard. Specialty roasters across the country began traveling to farms and paying premiums for quality in ways that did not exist before Stumptown made it visible. What Portland gave the American coffee world was not just better coffee, it was a new way of thinking about where your food comes from and what that origin is worth. Number 3. The Marionberry. The berry Oregon created from scratch. Not everything on this list was invented by accident. Some foods were the result of deliberate, patient, scientific work. The Marionberry is Oregon's greatest agricultural invention, and one of the most complex berries ever produced anywhere in the world. In the early 1950s, a USDA horticulturalist named George F. Waldo was working at Oregon State University with a specific mission. He wanted to develop a new blackberry that would thrive in the Willamette Valley climate, produce abundantly, and have genuinely exceptional flavor. Wild huckleberries were beloved in Oregon, but could not be farmed commercially. Waldo wanted something that could be cultivated at scale without losing complexity. He took an Olalley blackberry, which had good flavor but was difficult to grow, and crossbred it with a Chehalem variety, which was hardier but lacked depth. He waited through multiple growing seasons. The result was remarkable. A berry that ripened faster, produced more fruit per plant than either parent, and had flavor that researchers described as generally superior to both varieties it came from. The berry was tested in Marion County, Oregon, which gave it its name. Released in 1956, the Marionberry today grows almost exclusively in Oregon, which produces virtually the entire global commercial supply. In 2017, Marionberry pie was declared the official state pie of Oregon. Marionberry jam, ice cream, cobbler, cheesecake, milkshakes. The berry elevates everything it touches. George Waldo did not stumble onto it. He built it season by season, over years of patient work. Number 2, the Bacon Maple Bar. The donut that Portland turned into a philosophy. Yes, Voodoo Donut appeared earlier on this list. But the Bacon Maple Bar deserves its own entry because what it represents goes beyond any single shop and speaks to something essential about how Portland thinks about food. Portland's embrace of bacon and maple on a raised donut turned a novelty into a cultural statement. When Voodoo put a strip of crispy bacon on a maple-frosted bar and started selling it out of Old Town in the early 2000s, they made that combination a pilgrimage destination. The Bacon Maple Bar appeared on Food Network shows and in food magazines. It showed up on best of lists and travel guides. People started driving to Portland specifically to eat one. More importantly, it helped establish Portland as the place in America where the serious and the ridiculous were equally welcome at the table. Portland's food philosophy has always had this quality. The city does not rank a taco cart below a white tablecloth restaurant in terms of what deserves attention. The Bacon Maple Bar says that flavor is the only standard that matters. That tradition is a starting point and not a ceiling. That sometimes the best idea sounds completely wrong until you taste it. Portland did not invent bacon. It did not invent maple. But it invented the attitude that turned the combination into an icon, and that attitude has influenced food culture far beyond the city limits. Number 1. The food cart culture that changed how America eats. Every item on this list is something you can pick up, taste, and hold. But the most important food invention Portland gave the world is something harder to hold in your hands. It is a model, a philosophy about who gets to cook, who gets to eat well, and how much a great meal has to cost. Portland's food cart culture is not just a collection of carts selling food in parking lots. It is one of the most significant innovations in how American cities feed themselves, developed, refined, and proven here in ways that have been replicated around the country and the world. The food cart scene grew slowly through the 1990s and exploded in the 2000s. At its peak, Portland had more food carts per capita than any other American city. But what made it distinctive was not the quantity. It was the quality and the ambition. Portland food carts were not just selling pretzels to office workers. They were serving Vietnamese banh mi that competed with any restaurant in the city. Korean tacos before Korean tacos were a known category. Wood-fired pizza, Taiwanese breakfast, West African stews, Georgian dumplings, Ethiopian injera, Peruvian ceviche. The full range of the world's cuisines available in a gravel parking lot for $6 or $8 or $10 a plate. Salt and Straw started as a food cart. Some of Portland's most beloved full-service restaurants began as carts. The food cart became not just an entry point for immigrant entrepreneurs and first-time restaurant owners, but a legitimate venue where serious cooking happened, and where Portland's reputation as one of America's great food cities was built one order at a time. Cities across the country looked at what Portland had built and tried to replicate it. Austin grew its trailer park culture. New York fought its own cart regulations. The idea that a small cart in a gravel lot could be a serious culinary destination, that a city's food scene could be anchored by mobility and affordability rather than white tablecloths and reservation systems. That idea was tested in Portland, proven in Portland, and exported from Portland to the rest of the country. You started this video thinking about a quirky city in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe you were here for the tater tots. Maybe the corn dog was your reason. Maybe you just wanted to know where Voodoo Donut came from. But what you have seen is something bigger than any single item on this list. You have seen a city that has been inventing the future of food for more than a century. A city that took potato scraps and made a national holiday out of them. A city that turned leftover rice and vegetables into a billion-dollar industry. A city that started with $16 in a food cart and rewrote what artisan ice cream means in America. Portland is weird. Portland is very rainy. Portland is a man on a unicycle with bagpipes. But Portland is also one of the most consequential food cities this entire country has ever produced. The next time you reach for a tater tot, order a chai latte, bite into a veggie burger, or wait in a long line outside a food cart in whatever city you call home, you are living inside something that Portland built. Drop a comment and tell us which one surprised you the most. Subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into the foods that made America's most unexpected food city what it is. Stay sharp, stay curious, and keep eating well.